Welcome back. In part 1 of my project, I took a look at what a massively multiplayer online role-playing game was. Now, in part 2, we'll be taking a look at who plays MMOs. To do that, I'll be using some statistical data gathered by Palo Alto Research Center research scientist Nick Yee, a PhD in communications from Stanford, as well as data gathered by the Entertainment Software Association. I'm going to start off with the stereotype that video game players are all teenaged boys. Well, actually, the age of the average video game player is 35. MMOs do have a slightly younger crowd. The average player is only 26. The gender bias for MMOs is a little bit better, with 57% of its players being male, whereas gaming in general, the average is 60% male. Another little interesting piece of data here is that the average adult video game player, if male, has been playing for 12 years, whereas the average female adult video game player has been playing for 10. When you consider that the Nintendo generation is all grown up now, I guess that kind of makes sense. We grew up playing games, so why would we stop as adults? So in fact, only 25% of MMO players are actually teenagers. However, and this is where it gets a little interesting, 50% of MMO players hold a full-time job, 36% are married, and 22% have kids. Now with some actual, numbers out of the way, I'm going to move on to some sales figures. With the 2008 top 20 computer games sold, according to the Entertainment Software Association, 4 of the top 5 were either an MMO or an expansion to an MMO, with the top selling being the Wrath of the Lich King expansion, and the number 2 game being the only non-MMO in the entire top 10, and that would have been Spore. Further sales information from the ESA, also interesting to take a look at. The second largest computer game genre in sales for 2008 were RPGs, for which MMOs would fall into, and that was at 19.6%. The only category to outsell them were strategy games at 34.6%. Just as interesting to me is that in 2009, 23% of the frequent gamers played online games, up from 22% in 2008, and further up from the 8% reported in 2004. It's a nice trend. So what does this all actually mean? I'm giving off percentages and ages and, talking about stereotypes and teenagers. Well, what it means is that video games have matured. They're not a pastime for children. They're not for teenagers. Take a look at the price of a next-gen gaming console, a PS3 or an Xbox 360. Even the Nintendo Wii, which is marketed as the family gaming system and meant to be the price-friendly entry, I think a Wii is $200, PS3 is $300, a new game for a console is $60, a PC title ranges from $40 to $60, not to mention the MMO monthly subscription fee. Another important thing to note about these numbers is if the adult male gamer has been gaming for 12 years and the adult female for 10, we just have to look back to 1997. That was 12 years ago, almost 13 years ago. And on September 25th, Ultima Online was released for commercial sale in the United States. Now this is an important note because it is one of the first commercially successful MMOs. Sure, there was Meridian 59, which did well, and technically many people count it as an MMO. The Realm was a avatar-based virtual chat environment. Personally, I don't really consider it to have been an MMO due to the fact that it really didn't have much in the way of game, as much as it was a walk around and chat. But still, we're looking at the mid to late 90s for the development of MMOs, and here we are coming up on 2010. So we're dealing with from these numbers, we're dealing with the fact that the adult gamers who have played on average 10 to 12 years have grown up exposed to MMOs. Ultima Online, EverQuest, Asheron's Call, Anarchy Online, it just goes on. And then you have World of Warcraft, which took an even older intellectual property, Warcraft itself, and turned it into the most successful MMO to date. Even popular titles such as Star Wars weren't able to generate as many new subscriptions or long-term subscriptions as Warcraft has. The longevity of these persistent state worlds, the immersion that the players can experience, which is definitely an advantage over numerous conventional games. And the simple fact that the average online gamer grew up. I was, I think, 18 or 19 when I first got my hands on Ultima Online, and I personally have been hooked ever since. So my adult gaming life, I've grown up playing these games. I played the Nintendo and the Sega and the Super Nintendo as a kid, and graduated from that to PC gaming as an adult, and some of my first games as an adult were MMOs. I think if the next time that you're at the water cooler or at the office and you've got a few moments, strike up a conversation. I think you will be surprised how many Dwarven Paladins and Night Elf Clerics are actually in your office building. People of all walks of life are playing MMOs. It's very prevalent. It's a popular pastime, and people like the numbers show, people of all walks of life are playing these games. And even older players are spending as much time playing these games as younger players. Two friends of mine in their 80s were avid online gamers and very valuable members of my city and guild back when we were playing Star Wars Galaxies. So to close out this section, who plays MMOs? You never know. Could be you, it could be your neighbor, could be anyone.